Hi, everybody. Let me give you my top 5 logo design tips, some ideas that might help you improve your design process and make better work. All right, so here we go. So, the very first tip that I want to send your way is find inspiration. I can't stress this enough that as artists, as designers, we need inspiration. And that can come from anywhere, really. It doesn't have to just be researching logo design specifically, but just paying attention to the visual world around us. You can find all kinds of interesting and unique things that inspire you. Um, whether you're walking down the street, looking through books, going on a internet safari, you can find stuff. So let's take a look at some inspiration that I found. These are some designs by Aaron Draplin. I really like his design. I like the bold graphic quality of his artwork. Here's kind of a collection of some of his famous logos. So definitely, I like looking at him and seeing how he solves a particular design problem. And that all actually comes from kind of a history of graphics. He always recommends these books. I don't have copies of them myself, but I'd love to get my hands on them. They're out of print. But looking at visual symbols and symbology and paying attention to how these little objects are created and drawn out of basic shapes is really interesting, and it's something that you should pay attention to and will really help build that library in your mind of potential solutions for design problems. And so, like I say, when you're looking for inspiration, you're not necessarily working on a particular project at that time. Sometimes you're just walking around and things occur to you. Nowadays, I like to take pictures. Anytime I see a graphic or a symbol or something that is interesting to me, take a picture of it, hang on to it, and look at it later. Here's some of those symbols inside those books that you can see. Just there are a bazillion, a gazillion, you know, however many solutions to any problem. They haven't all been exhausted, and so if you look at this stuff, you can get new ideas to freshen up your design. Next, next tip is draw stuff. Now, a lot of graphic designers, they cringe when they hear, hey, draw. They're not really artists. They don't like to sketch. But there is something important about the process of drawing on paper or even with an iPad and a stylus. But actually, the act of drawing and creating a shape with your hand somehow unlocks your brain and lets you think through a visual problem. If all you do is just go straight to the computer to that blank page and you look at the toolbar and you just try to figure out, okay, what am I going to make? Um, that's not really not thinking. You know, that's collecting. That's some other activity. That's not actually thinking. Thinking has to be done on paper. It really does. So get out that sketchbook, draw and doodle ideas. Um, this is also a time where I combine the process of sketching and drawing with looking for visual inspiration. Um, you could be browsing the internet, you could be looking at books, just doodling and sketching and thinking through potential solutions. Also, there's something interesting that happens when you get a sketch or a drawing on paper. It almost unlocks the ability to think of another one. I found that if I haven't gone through this process, a lot of times I'm stuck on just one idea, and that one idea isn't enough. It really doesn't flesh out as many possible solutions as you can have. So it's almost like you have to commit to that design by sketching or doodling or drawing or making it before you can move on to the next one. And that's really how that process works. So don't be afraid to sketch. Don't be afraid to draw. Take some time and go through the process. Refine your lines, refine your drawings, and think it through. Next tip: build your pieces. Now this is where you can dive into the computer, where it's actually time to build up your artwork and take your sketches, take your inspiration, and bring them together and start building up a file of assets. Now, me personally, I live in the Illustrator world, so I like to take and collect all of my image reference, um, graphic segments, little drawings, things that I've done, and put them into one big file, and stir it up and see what happens. That's one of my favorite things about the Illustrator artboard is that it goes on forever. You can collect all kinds of stuff out there as you're working through ideas. And for me, this visual process sifts through my ideas and helps me hone in on a couple really critical ideas. So uh, this clutter may look a little disorganized, but it's my process for kind of mixing, matching, picking fonts, picking shapes, editing shapes, modifying shapes, building things up until I finally settle on the solution. And my goal during this stage of the game is to come up with 2 or 3 solutions out of that cluster of information that I can use to solve the problem and come up with a decent logo. And so it takes some work, it takes some effort. It's not going to come easy, but definitely push yourself to get beyond just one idea. Go for more than one and see what you can come up with. Next, the next tip is limit your color. All right. Don't go with the entire rainbow of colors from the beginning. Limit yourself to either a few simple colors, maybe a 2 or 3 colors pattern, or maybe even just black and white in the beginning as you start to develop your logo. This is how you can tell if your logo is reading graphically, is if it can be distilled down to just a couple colors and whether or not it can hold its own without having to use color. Because every good logo, every good icon really is legible as a symbol. It has good contrast, has good shape, and all of that plugged in together in just a black and white form is enough. When that's done, when you've figured out the basic black and white, maybe even the grayscale version of your logo, then you can start playing around with your color scheme. And here again, I'm saying limit your color, that your finished logo shouldn't really be more than 2 or 3 colors. You really don't want to have a full range, full color logo. It's not a great idea. I guess I'm old school. I don't like Photoshop logos. I don't like photographic logos. Definitely limit your color, make it a tight, uh, you know, tight, efficient symbol. Next, once you've gotten those elements together, you've gotten your basic pieces together, your basic color scheme, you've tested out your main ideas, then you really want to start playing around with scale. Sometimes we can get into this kind of tunnel vision where we only have one size, one design, one scale, but there are so many different uses for logos these days. You really have to be flexible. So you got to make sure that your logo can fit at different sizes. That means we have to maybe fit one into a square or a rectangle, sometimes a circle. There are a lot of different uses, and so you want to pay attention to that. The other thing you want to do is vary size so you build a hierarchy in your design. Play around with the main title, the main words. Make sure that those important elements are the focal point of that logo and that they don't lose definition by being too similar in size to the other pieces. Here's a situation where this logo um, worked as a name and as a graphic symbol, limited color, limited style and shape, but we have a horizontal version, but we also had to make the square version, the version that could fit into a symmetrical space. And so having that flexibility in your design, making it useful in a variety of areas like that is really helpful. All right, so hopefully those tips will help you as you process and work through a logo design. Um, First, obviously, find inspiration. Next, you want to draw and sketch. Third, you want to build your pieces, collect your assets in Illustrator. Next, you want to limit your color, work with a limited color scheme first. And last but not least, be able to scale, vary the size, test out different proportions to see what really fits. All right, so hopefully those are some good tips for you guys that help you improve your design, and I'll see you around next time. See you later.